Howdy! Welcome to another Top 5. Today I'm going to talk about my top 5 favorite Marvel movies. A few weeks ago, The Hollywood Reporter basically put together a list of all 45 Marvel movies. I didn't even know there was 45 of them. But they put a list and rated them from number 45 down to number 1. And I don't know how they get their opinion. I'm not sure if it's one person who puts it together or if a bunch of people do. But they put together their top 45, and I decided, you know what? I'm going to decide what my top 5 are. I actually could have gone to top 10, but I thought that'd be way too long. Let's just do top 5, and then this gives us something to talk about. Now, the remarkable thing is, after I did my list, it turns out that 4 of my top 5 are in their top 5. So a couple of them are actually in the same spot, but one is drastically different, and that should be interesting to talk about. So I'm not going to tell you what their top 5 are just yet, but I am going to tell you the one that they put in their top 5 that I didn't put in at all. And that's the very first Spider-Man movie, the one in 2002, the very first one that Tobey Maguire did. And I actually like that movie a lot. It was in my top 10, but it didn't crack my top 5. It was very well done. I think that it really helped to get this genre of superhero movie going. And Marvel started to show, okay, we may have some kind of talent in making these movies. And I'm saying Marvel because I can't remember who was actually making them then before Disney. But they did a very good job with it, and it almost made my top 5, but it didn't. So that's the only movie that they have that I don't have in my top 5. And when I get to my particular movie, then we will debate that one. So here we go. My number 5 movie is Iron Man. I thought this was really well done, and they could have really messed this up. I mean, I remember the old cartoon, and I really loved the cartoon. I used to love the comic book, and when I heard that they were going to do Iron Man, I said, geez, I wonder what that's going to, be like. And then they mentioned Robert Downey Jr., and I couldn't see it. I just couldn't. So my mind was just like Batman back in the 80s, when they said that Michael Keaton was going to play Batman, and you're like, what, the guy who played Beetlejuice is going to play Batman? But he did really well. Well, I wasn't so sure about Robert Downey Jr. I mean, I've never really thought of him as a heroic kind of guy, I'll admit. I've always kind of thought of him as a little kind of wimpy guy. But he came through. I don't know that Iron Man would have been as good with almost anybody else. Robert Downey Jr.'s got the perfect personality for this, it turns out. It's different than the personality that Iron Man had way back in the 60s and 70s. And I understand that it was pretty close to kind of the personality that younger people got used to in newer comic books. But he did really well. And I think that Iron Man helped to build upon what, the first Spider-Man did. But it took it to another level. So it's very creative. I enjoyed it a lot. So that's why it makes number 5 on my list. Number 4 on my list, I don't have. Because what's number 4 on my list is Captain America Civil War. And on the Hollywood Reporter's list, they have that at 13. Are you kidding? Now, maybe because it's brand new, because I almost disqualified it from my list because I'm sitting there wondering, okay, do I have it in my top 5 because I just saw it and I loved it so much? Or is it really something that's going to stand out? And the way I'm judging this is the day I know it comes out, I'm going to buy it. No questions asked. And I went to see it on the day it came out, and I absolutely loved it. IMAX 3D. I even did a brief little review of it when I got home from that. It pulls together a lot of great elements. It really is like kind of the culmination, even though we're not done yet, but it's the kind of the culmination of everything of the previous movies that have kind of built up here. They were able to really, it was still a Captain America movie, but Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man played a big part. A lot of the other characters that we saw in Age of Ultron played a big part. Some of the new people that we saw who, may have, it's weird to call them bad guys and good guys because they were all heroes, but this movie was really fantastic. They did a great job. There's some people who nitpicked a couple of things, but they had to go far to nitpick. So that's how come this becomes my number 4 movie. My number 3 movie is The Avengers. I love this movie a lot. And of course, this pulled together the original Avengers that we were all talking about. And it brought in Hawkeye, who I really didn't know who he was. And I just didn't. For me, he kind of came out of nowhere. And I got to tell you the truth. This isn't fair, but I was not necessarily a Scarlett Johansson fan until this movie. I just wasn't. I really didn't know much about her. She did a lot of types of movies that, someone like me would never watch. But seeing this movie, I can't imagine another Marvel movie without her. And I just thought that really, it was a lot of fun. Loki was fun. Hulk was fun. This movie really had it all. So how can you not put this in your top 5? Number 2, and actually this was their number 2 movie as well, which is Spider-Man 2. The first Spider-Man did set things up, but I thought this one here was well acted. I'm imagining, you've got Spider-Man Peter Parker's going through this mental thing where he's not necessarily sure about his powers and he keeps losing his powers. And he's going through this thing. Should I do this? Should I not do this? I think that having I'm going to say Al Molinaro. That's not what I mean. I can't remember the guy's name right. I had it there for a while. Anyway, the guy who played Doc Ock, oh my God, he crushed it. He crushed it. And Kirsten Dunst, you know what? I liked her too. And she's another one who I never really cared much about until I saw the first Spider-Man. It was just nothing that really appealed to me. And after that, then I said, okay, now I get it. Now I get it. But this movie was, to me, way better than the first movie. You want to know how I judge that? I've probably seen this movie about 20 times. The first one I may have seen 7 or 8 times. But this one here, I just kept watching all the time. So I thought it was really good. And by the way, Iron Man, which I had at number 5, The Hollywood Reporter had at number 3. So, and Avengers is the movie that they had at number 1. And I had that obviously at number 3. And here comes my number 1 movie, which they had at number 4, which is Winter Soldier. I keep watching this movie. Oh, even now. I mean, I probably watched it last week again. And I just keep watching it over and over. And every time I watch it, I seem like I pick up something new in it. And I have, certain movies that just happens to me where I'll watch them over and over and I'm always finding something new about it. This movie, I haven't found a single person who has found anything wrong with this movie. I mean, it just really pulled everything together. And I'm saying this from the perspective of someone who didn't see the original Captain America movie. Because I gotta tell you the truth, I was not a big Captain America fan as a kid. And when the first movie came out, my mind just said, see no stupid Captain America. But after I saw the Avengers, then I had to see this movie. And this is great. And at some point, I just might go back and watch the original Captain America. Although I'm not necessarily so sure. I have to think a lot about that one. In my mind keeps thinking it's somewhat dated, and I might, leave it alone. But everything in this movie worked. And there you go. Matter of fact, this movie worked so well that there's this YouTube channel called How It Should Have Ended that usually beats up on movies. And the guy basically said, hey, this movie was great. I have almost nothing, so I've got to nitpick. That's how good I thought this movie was. So anyway, those are my top 5 favorite Marvel movies. And I got to tell you, like I said, there's some that barely missed. The second X-Men movie, I love that movie a lot. But it just, it didn't get there for whatever reason. It just couldn't crack my list. The second Hulk movie, a lot of people beat up on that, but I gotta tell you, the ending fight scene is a great fight scene. And come on, it had Liv Tyler. Come on, those eyes. My God, Liv Tyler, folks. And I did a review video where I talked about movies I liked that other people didn't like. You know what? Remember that Fantastic Four Silver Surfer movie? I had it on my list. It didn't make my top 10, but it was at number 11, so it was pretty close to making it in there. That's a shame. But we like what we like, right? Anyway, that's my list. What do you guys think? What are your top 5? You can always go look at the Hollywood Reporter and look up. I'm sure that article's still there. Look at their top, all the list of the 45 movies. There's a lot of movies on there I've never seen. A couple of them I never even heard of. So, You know, maybe Blade shows up on your list. Maybe Ghost Rider does. Although, based on the review that this thing gave it, Ghost Rider didn't show up on anyone's list. And it made 2 of them. So, you go. What are you going to do? Anyway, let me know. Y'all take care. Have a great week.